Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everywhere around the world. Today is another edition of Climate Wednesday. And what we are talking about this month is focusing on funding for farmers. And I'm very happy because we have had series of conversation on how farmers can access funding and how farmers can also build themselves capacity, how they can also help themselves to get more opportunities and capacity for their businesses. And today we are going to be looking at a very big conversation as we round up this month Climate Wednesday. We're going to be talking about smallholder farmers accessing to inputs and finance in Africa. We want to focus on the smallholder farmers, how they are getting their inputs and the finance, how they drive financing towards the inputs they use for their community. And today, I'm very happy to be having somebody that is a friend of the house and is actually working in the space of agriculture, agribusiness, and is going to be talking to us briefly today on this wonderful conversation. And I'm very sure that we are all ready to listen and hear from him because funding for farmer will actually help us to get more food on our table and to also help us to build capacity and make our farmers to understand the impact of climate change and also to understand when and what time do they need to start looking at investment opportunity. As we had last week, our speaker actually talks a lot about how we can get funding, and he was talking about collaboration, building corporate bodies together before they can get that such opportunity. So today, um, we have a very fantastic speaker that is going to be speaking to us. His name is Ismaila Shittu. He's an agribusiness specialist, smart agriculture and farm mapping monitoring, who has successfully led smallholder farmers campaign in over 15 states across Nigeria with over 5 years experience. He's using technology and innovation in driving campaigns for smallholder farmers in order to promote global best practices for farming to our rural farmers. You can see this our guest today is actually rooting deep into smallholder farmers. He also volunteered for different non-profit organizations across the globe with the current challenge facing agriculture in African communities. He's a member of these initiative. He has been doing fantastically when it comes to agribusiness and ideas on businesses. He has been leading development and implementation of different organizations and our organization operations and logistics. He had his education background in BA in local government and development studies and his PhD in peace studies and conflict resolution. I'm very happy that we have him today, and we're going to be having a very quick and big conversation with him as we continue in our conversation. Like I said, we're going to be looking at a very big topic, which is going to round up our conversation today. Smallholder farmers, access to inputs and finance in Africa. So let me welcome our guests to the our live show. Hi, Mr. Shitu. How are you?
Hello, good afternoon, Olumide.
Yeah, good. It's good. It's good to see you. It's good to have you on board as a family, and as you're also going to be sharing with us what is necessary for smallholder farmers. Because from our three conversation on funding for farmers, we're able to understand that smallholder farmers are actually contributing a lot of food that comes to our table as citizens, as the people. So today we're going to be focusing on those smallholder farmers and focusing on the inputs because a lot of things have been going around, most especially concerning inputs and agribusiness, which is something that a lot of countries are looking at to invest because agriculture is a very big industry that can give us that leverage to understand what we need to put in place when it comes to feeding and when it comes to agri business. And from your background using innovation and technology, you also be able to help us to see how we can drive financing into the. So Sorry, I've read a lot about your experience. I've read your profile, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do? Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ismaila Shittu, as said earlier. Um, I've worked in different organizations, including Agribusiness, where I led some team to different part of northern part of Nigeria to, to take a little bit of research about smallholder farmers, how are they doing, what their challenges, and what have you. Currently, I'm working with lorry system. I'm a key account manager on transport, and that doesn't take agri from me because most of what we are taking from what we are doing in lorry system is that we are we are transporting farm produce to companies, and we are now taking back the finished product to the market for them. So you can see that it's still agri related. So basically, that's what I'm doing now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think a lot of people have been able to understand that you are deeply rooted into farming, agriculture, and I really love how this is happening and how we are going to be seeing what we are doing. So, quick one: when you hear farmers, what comes to your mind?
Hmm. Okay. Let me give you definition based on my own, the way I believe farmers should we should treat them and the way we should be looking at them. I see farmer like a God sent to the world because without them, I don't think anybody will survive. If we have all the money in this world and there is no food to put on the table with the money, then I don't think we will survive because we know that we can't eat the money. But the farmer that we are talking about, if we look deeply into what they are doing, I don't think they are really enjoying their reap of their labor because farmer will go to the farm, spend money on the farm, then the farm produce and what have you, and when he or she want to sell the produce, then there will be problem because first of all we have the middlemen. We come and buy it very very cheap from them. At the end of the day, when they do their plus and minus with their profit and gain, you will see that okay, they are the one even getting the lesser money with upon all the struggle they did from first month to like the sixth month of harvest and selling the produce. They still sell it very less. Why someone calling himself or herself a middleman get it as lesser as they can buy it and now sell it at a higher price. So for me, I give kudos to the farmer because without them, I don't think we'll survive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very. Without them, we don't think we will survive because they are one of the biggest stakeholder that put food on our table, and we look at them as a savior to our environment. So, quick one: we are looking at smallholder farmers.
Yeah.
Who are smallholder farmers, and who do you think? What do you think their role should be, or what is their role in the market space?
Okay. A smallholder farmer, let me call them a group of people that they have a lesser land to manage, and year in year out they still use that lesser land to say that okay, people have food on their table. They face the different challenges, calling them smallholder farmer. If you're talking about farm equipment, they don't really have it. They still use the normal manual type of farming that our forefathers are using then. They don't have access to tractors. Fertilizer is a challenge for them to get. Getting seed. Seed is another challenge again because they use the previous year's seed to now replant again. And when you are doing such thing, your yield will be depreciating year in, year out. So that's just a simple definition of a smallholder farmer.
Thank you very much. So, meaning that these people are very important in our industry and we can't do without them, which I think is very, very important. So, looking at our focus this month, we are talking about funding for farmers. So, when you look at smallholder farmers with the kind of definition you give to it, having small land but producing much for people to eat, do you think what do you think happens to their input when it comes to financing? Do you think it's a very big problem?
Okay. Um, Let me say, generally in Africa, 75% of farmer facing problem of agricultural input. 75%. Within this 75%, we have 57% facing the problem of lack of money or funding. Then within this 57%, we have 43% which lack the credibility of getting credit facilities. In other words, to boost their farming produce. So, with all this, we call it the challenge. It's a great challenge to them because, one, most of them lack information because they are illiterate. And when you lack information, there's a lot of things that you deprive yourself. But we can't just because they lack information, we won't take this information down to them and break it down to their own level. Because what we mean by information is that there is no way that you think they lack information, that you can bring the information down to them to their own language, which they will understand. And they will know that, okay, this is the way forward for farming now. So with all this, like we talk about the farming equipment, which is a great challenge to them. Now, you can't expect a smallholder farmer, to like, okay, come up with a huge money to say, okay, I want to buy a tractor, which everybody know that the price of tractor now is like 20, 30 million naira. And this kind of smallholder farmer you're talking about is he or she is cultivating on like 2, 3 acres of land. So what I'm saying in essence is that the only way to help this kind of people is for government to come in. And there's a lot of budget coming out every year, to save this smallholder farmer. But, when you are not in the rural area to see these people, you'll be thinking that maybe the government are doing enough. But when you get deep down to them, they will tell you that they are not even seeing anybody, which is the truth. Because they are the people that are supposed to be benefiting from this money that, they budgeted for agri every year. But at the end of the day, you see they will give us a huge number of, okay, these are the people that benefited from it. But when you go deep down there, they will tell you that there is nobody that came to them in terms of financing, in terms of fertilizer distribution, in terms of subsidizing seedlings to them. So access to finance for these people, in other words, is a great challenge. Now we have micro institution, that's the microfinance bank. They are supposed to be like a helper to all these smallholder farmers. But when they approach this kind of microfinance bank, either they ask them of collateral, which they don't have because the collateral they might be asking for, it's even more than the land they have. Secondly, if they are talking about loan facilities, giving them loans, yeah, they are willing to collect the loan, but the interest on the loan they are going to pay, meaning if they are farming and they are selling the farm produce, at the end of the day, they might not get profits. They will use all the profits to pay interest. So all this is not helping. And I guess the good thing to do is that we are supposed to start the approach of zero interest rate, because that's the way forward for us to help all these smallholder farmers. Because if you can't do that, then I don't think there's any other way for us to help these people. Then we have all these private sectors, all these NGOs that normally come into Nigeria to like, okay, give fund out and everything. But still yet, I don't think they are really capturing the real target group that they are supposed to be giving it to, which everybody knows that. Because a lot of people getting this money are like me and you that are still working in an organization, are the ones still benefiting from this money. But the real people that really need the money, the smallholder farmers, they are not really getting it. So let me just stop you like that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That was totally deep. Like the bottom line is we need to prioritize our smallholder farmers because
Yeah.
what they are giving to us is going to be the leverage we are going to be having across the globe. So let's move on to a personal experience. When you're talking about funding for farmers, what do you think should be the right position of farming or of farmers or getting funding for farmers, most especially smallholder farmers? What do you think we need to start looking at, or what do you think we need to start doing to make sure that these small scale holder farmers, but before we go to that question, let me quickly ask, do you think that our smallholders farmers, do you really think that they are producing enough? Two, do you think they actually even understand the process of producing and the inputs they are getting to, get food on our table? Do you think they really understand the space they are presently?
All right. Thank you for that question. I think they are producing enough because if you are a farmer and the sustainability is there, and the farmer will be telling you about 20, 25 years experience, meaning in every year, either be it rainy season farming, irrigation farming, you understand, and the farmer is doing this constantly, meaning the production is intact. But the challenges is that how can he or she expand that production? That's one thing. Secondly, the process for them producing, there's a lot of process for them to follow in terms of producing. But following this process without funding, it can never really work. That's just the truth. It can't really work. So let me go back to the question you want to ask before you ask me about how can they distribute the funding or something to them for them to, move forward to what they're doing. To my own suggestion, I don't think the funding is really what they need, but the right input. If you can use that funding to buy all the necessary input for them, then I guess it will work. And why I'm saying this is that a personal experience. There are some farmers that you give funding, small other farmer, you give them funding. Okay, you need funding. There's a funding we are giving you to plant XYZ. You've already had an agreement with them. And turning back after 1 week, if you ask for that person, they will tell you that okay, he just got married day before yesterday, blah blah blah. Meaning he has used that money to get married. You understand? So that's another challenge. But if you are buying the right input for that small other farmer, okay, you have so acre of land. How many cost of input do you need? How many kg of maize seedling do you need? What are the herbicide you need during the farming process, during the um, uh, post harvest and pre harvest? You understand? Then what do you need for labor cost? So if you are talking about financing these people, if you are giving them any money, I guess the money should be for the labor cost. That's if they are using any labor. The labor cost that that the labor we serve for that farm for the whole farming cycle, maybe during cultivation, planting, weeding, then the bottom end is the harvesting. They will need labor. And if you have a chart of okay, this is the cost of a whole farming process. If you divide it by the labor cost there is not up to 15%. Let's just give it 15%. So if you have 100% you want to give a farmer, and you've already used almost 85% to buy all the input that farmers need. Okay, this is all what you need. The only money I'm giving you now is for the labor for the entire cycle of the farmer of the farming season. With that, I know they will sit upright and do the necessary thing. I'm not condemning all the small other farmer that if you give them money, they will manage it well. They will. But there is a lot of them that when you give them that money, they will divert it. And that's the reason why a lot of people are scared in giving them money. But they were like, when you give a farmer money to cultivate a land, at the end of the day, when you come back, you hear a different story, which is not cool. So I guess if you can leverage on this kind of approach, buying all the necessary inputs, the seedling, the herbicide, the insecticide, you understand, the fertilizer for them, then the little labor cost that, okay, this is for the labor for the entire farming cycle. If it's 3 month farming cycle, if it's 4, 5, 6 months, you give them the labor cost. Then I guess with that we can move forward. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you've stolen the question I wanted to ask the second phase, but good one. Let's quickly move to sectors now. We have the private, we have the non-governmental, we have the government, and we have, let me call it, civil society. I want us to talk more on the private sector. What do you think is the role of private sector in helping this set of people to access funding? What do you think private sector need to do to help them to get the right opportunity? Like you said, it's not really the money, but to get the money to get the input for them to be able to, do their farming. So, what do you think should be the real solution or real support from the private sector?
I guess I guess maybe like some of the private sectors are started doing, maybe contributing to farmer, giving them money for them to to move forward. They are not much, they are just little. And I guess there are some of them that are doing funding for farmers, like crowdfunding for farmers, what have you. You understand? Which is a very good concept. But at the end of the day, if we look at this again, because all this have to come, the outcome of this is return on investment. And to me, whatever is you're giving to a farmer and you're collecting a return on investment, because we are going to collect your capital back. As in, okay, this is the capital I'm investing on you. When you finish your farming and harvesting, you can return the capital back. That one is fine. But when you're taking capital with like 20% return on investment, that IRO, to me, it's not really making sense. So what I think they should be doing is that, okay, now for us to help our farmers, we can cluster them into group. You understand? Because if you have a farmer which are clustered into group and you invest on them, you've already thrown a challenge to them, because everybody wants to sit upright so that, okay, if I eventually come the best, if they are giving us same money next year, I'll be part of it. But if you are not doing well, even though if they are coming back next year, when they are taking the list, they will take your name off because you prove them wrong. As in, you didn't really meet up to the expectation they are expecting. You understand? So for me, that is the kind of approach I think they should start with. Because if you are, no matter how you are telling a private sector to give a farmer money, the story I told you about farmer using money, that's the same thing they will tell you. But they've forgotten that there is different approach to this thing. All this is not about money. But when the input is on ground intact, then you can now leverage on, okay, this is what I want to do. Can I get farmer from social community? Okay, I have the input, blah, blah, blah. This is the cost of my input. But I will collect the cost of the input till after your harvest. You pay me my input back. A lot of farmers will sign up to that. A lot of them will sign up to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Once again, our viewers across the world, if you are watching us from anywhere across the world, this is Climate Wednesday. It's an international platform for young people to discover and to actually understand the conversation we want to see in the space. I'm very happy because today our conversation is ending this chapter of funding for farmer. And if you are watching from everywhere, drop your questions for our guests on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. You can start dropping your questions. And thank you very much for the people that already started dropping their questions. We want to say thank you very much for that. We'll come back to those questions as we are moving ahead of this. We've talked about private sector and how they need to start looking for an avenue to invest into the small scale older farmers. So can you give us your experience working with smallholder farmers? What do you think is the major challenge you've seen cut across the geopolitical zones? What do you think has been the issue that we are facing and that we are looking at when it comes to smallholder farm? I want you to do this with your own personal experience because you've gone on the field, you see how farmers are actually responding to money they've been given to them and how they are behaving towards what they want for themselves. Thank you, sir.
Okay. My personal experience with smallholder farmer is a very interesting one because a lot of people don't really understand a smallholder farmer except when you sit down with them. You sit down, you dine with them, you eat with them. Seeing someone coming from the city, to sit with them and okay, let's manage this your small space for a little time so we can talk about farming, which that's what they really like. So part of what I see as the challenges they face, first of all, lack of information. Because if by the time we are sharing like a new development approach to farming, most of these people don't really understand. Yeah, they they might be hearing this on radio, but even hearing this on radio, they don't really understand. They really need someone to come and sit with them, and break this thing to their level. Okay, this is what they mean by this. This is what they're saying. This is what they're saying. So that's one thing, the challenges they are facing. Secondly, the challenge they are facing is about input, which we've already talked about. Because getting the right input is a big challenge to them. Firstly, high cost. Understand? It's very, very expensive. And as a smallholder farmer, they have low budget. They always have low budget because they are not big. So if a smallholder farmer, you can't expect him to buy a seedling of a maize for 50 kg, which he or she know that 50 kg is what he or she need for a farming season. And they are selling that 50 kg for like maybe 30 something thousand. You'll be thinking that if I should buy this, I've not bought fertilizer. If I'm buying only this for 35,000, if I should put this kind of money onto fertilizer, then I'll get almost roughly 7 bags of fertilizer. You understand? So that's the way they think. And you won't blame them because they look at the cost. And all this kind of thing, we expect government to break it down the way they break fertilizer down. But I am not saying that in terms of seedling. Secondly, access to fertilizer. Yeah, we're talking about fertilizer. Government will say, okay, we are giving them lesser fertilizer every year. But for these people to access the fertilizer is a problem. At the end of the day, they might not get it at the rate of the government were selling it. They have to buy it at the market rate because it's not even flowing to their side. Because what they normally tell us is that, yeah, they heard that they are bringing fertilizer to their community, but some people have already hijacked it. So they will now resell it in a higher price, which is very, very bad. So thirdly, they talk about access to markets. So after harvest, where can they sell who are the off-taker that they can sell it to directly without a middleman? Because they are complaining that they are really tired of middlemen because they are not really benefiting from what they are producing. The middlemen are the one benefiting. So I get the government or the private sector have to be looking at, okay, these are the off-taker. The off-taker will come to your door and you will buy all those produce as a market price. That is the current market price they are selling that thing. They'll buy it up. So if they are doing that, the small farmer will always be smiling Because the only smallholder farmer that I know that they are a little bit smiling are the one that they are in charge of farming of rice, because they know there's a lot of obstacle for rice. Everybody wants to come out and take rice from your farm because they know that okay, there is a lot of farm rice mill across the country. So lastly, most of them, complain about uh, transportation access, maybe access to transportation that will move their farm produce to the market for them to sell. You understand? If they are putting in, if they are getting a transportation that is taking this into the market, is that there is a cost on. If you're talking about okay, you are bagging your produce in a bag, there is a cost for each bag, which when they put the cost on the produce, at the end of the day, getting to the smallholder, getting to the market, when the how would I call them again? The middlemen come over, they have to price that thing down again, meaning they will be the one shorting the money they use in transporting that to the market. They've already take it off from them, so they will short charge themselves from what they were supposed to gain. At the end of the day, when they now calculate their money, maybe they end up getting 2%. So that's the challenge they face.
Hmm. That is so interesting. That kind of personal story make us to understand the need and the necessity for us to see that smallholder farmers we are not really putting attention to them, and it is not a good time for us to start looking at all this. We need to start looking at the best time to make sure that farmers or smallholder farmers also enjoy after harvest. They have income to save after their harvest, which I think is very, very important. So let's as we are rounding up, I just want to ask this quick question. We've talked about the private sector. Looking at the government, you've mentioned some components of government in our conversation. What should be the role of the government we have presently, and not only in Nigeria, across Africa, when it comes to food system? What do you think we should start looking at, or start? What are your recommendations that for government to start looking at to make sure that all these smallholder farmers also have income, money in their pockets after producing, after harvesting, after selling, there's something they can go back to say, yes, this is my profit. But
Okay, then let me just say this, because the government always have poor implementation of government policy. You understand? Their policy implementation is always poor. Yeah, it can be sweet on paper, but at the end of the day, when they deploy it, it's very, very poor. So no matter how well we are going to say, we are still going to go back to them, because they have to, find a way to improve the policy. Because if we are saying this from now to tomorrow, if they are not improving on that policy, we are still going round and round and revolve and revolve, revolve. So those smallholder farmers still be suffering. But when they have a better policy for them, have better structure for them, okay, this structure is strictly for smallholder farmer. This is how we want to be treating them. This is what we'll be expecting from them every year. This is the tonnage of grains we want to be getting from the smallholder farmer. That's the only way all this thing can change. But if they are not changing that policy, they are not improving on the policy, I bet you will still be on one point without moving an inch. Thank you.
thank you very much. I think so that it's very, very interesting from what you just said, because the role of government in smallholder farmer is very important. And with the schemes, with the program we've seen everywhere that people were talking about, is a very clear. If you're watching this live conversation again, we are still live on funding for farmers. And today on Climate Wednesday, we are talking about smallholder farmers' access to inputs and finance in Africa. Let me quickly go straight to the question we have here. And I will put it on. Somebody said here, Loretta Untui, how can farmers in local areas bridge the gap on bridge the gap on from farm to market for consistent supply. I think you mentioned something about transporting the
Yeah.
goods and the challenges that one is facing. I think, Loretta, if you are still online, our guests have already touched base on that. This second one, can precision agriculture, precise agriculture, be productive, ecological, and food security answer in the future? Okay, let me quickly say this, and it's going to relate to what she asked. When we are looking at food security, do you think presently in Nigeria, the food we have presently, is it abundant? The food we have now, do you think is going to be sufficient for people? And what are you saying as access to food? And how are we in Africa in securing the kind of food we are taking?
Okay. For Nigeria, I don't think we are I don't think we are producing enough. Um, Before now, let me say like 2 3 years or 4 years ago, um, we've start saying that okay, yeah, we can get there. At least we are getting more produce year in year out. But like a year or 2 years ago, if you can remember, there's a lot of crisis at the upper north there, which where we have the arable land for people to farm more for this country to benefit from. So we have the challenges of bandits stopping the farmer. We have herdsmen stopping the farmer. We have the Boko Haram in the northeast disturbing the farmer also. So with all these crises farmer are facing, we are having lesser production every year, which means we are started bridging, as in we are not really bridging the gap, we are breaking the gap. However, like we are destroying the gap that we're supposed to leverage on, because when this thing is happening, then we'll be having lesser food, and before you know, food importation will be coming to Nigeria, and the more we have more food importation in Nigeria, the more the dollar we are talking about will keep us rising and rising and rising. So that's the challenge. And to Africa, I guess maybe similar issue might cut across some of the African countries that we're facing in Nigeria here, because there are some African countries too that are having the same crisis. And and if you look at it very well, where this crisis normally come from is from the rural area, where we have abundant farmers, not in the city. So this thing is really affecting all our farmers across Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And you've actually touched on a lot of things. As we are closing today, I want you to give us your parting words for today's conversation. What do you think is your parting word to young people, government, private sector, and what have you, every other people across that is watching and that are going to watch again? What is going to be your recommendation for us when it comes to smallholder farmer access to input and financing them across Africa and across value chain?
Okay, well, what I would just say in a nutshell is that if you're watching me, I want us to come together and join hands together to speak for this smallholders farmer. Yeah, they can't speak for themselves, because why? They are not bold to come out to tell everybody these their challenges, unless when you go deep down to meet them one on one. And the only way for them to voice out is through us. So let's come together and voice out for this smallholders farmer, for them to have a better life for us. Thank you.
You ve- Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I've already said I don't want to take much of our time today. You've really done so very well. And I'm very sure that everybody watching us, both digital farmers, both conventional farmers, and everybody across the globe, I'm 100% sure that we've gotten something out of our conversation today. And I want to appreciate our speaker for the enlightenment, for the knowledge transfer on the issue of funding for farmers, smallholder farmers access to inputs and finance in Africa. And you're also watching us from other African countries. Thank you very much. We are very grateful for having you. Thank you,
Thank you, man.
our guest. And next week, we hope to give you more from Climate Wednesday. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Yes, everyone, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm very happy that we're able to do this again. And as we end this conversation on funding for farmer, I want us to put at the back of our mind that we can rewatch all these series on our YouTube, on our Facebook, and on our Twitter. And we want to see your feedback, what you've heard the guests talking about, and how we can continue to get access for financing for smallholder farmers, for people that are actually suffering, that are from the receiving end. What can we continue to do? So, funding for farmer has gone this month, and we are now going to be moving to another conversation next month. Stay on this our timeline on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to also watch our edition for next month. Thank you very much. All the people that send questions to us, all the people that are sharing our stories, we really appreciate you for that. And we look forward to have you next week. Thank you and bye for now.